Hi. So today we're going to be talking about circles. So we're going to get two parts to today's lesson. So we're going to have circumference, we're going to have area. My I can statement is I can find the circumference and area of a circle. So first thing we talk about is, well, what is a circle? I'm sure you all know what it looks like, but a circle is actually the set of all points equidistant from a given point called the center. What that means is if I draw a point anywhere on the edge of this circle, it'll be the same distance from the center as any other point. So if I drew, I can't really draw on this one, can I? If I drew a point right here and drew a line, it'd be the same distance as if I drew a line right here to this edge. So that's not as important right now as what we're going to go over, but it's just nice to know that a circle, the edge is the same distance from the middle all the way around. So first thing we're going to talk about is circumference. So the circumference of a circle is the distance around the circle. So if I start at a point here and go all the way around the circle, the circumference is how far that is. Another way of saying it is the circumference is the perimeter of the circle. So kind of what we talked about yesterday. Now, because circles don't have sides, like squares and triangles and rectangles, we have to do things a little different. So to find the circumference, we have to have a little equation, a formula for it. So before we go over that, let's just go over a few pieces of terminology. So again, circumference, which will be used as C to represent, is the distance around the circle. The radius of the circle, which we use R to represent that one, is the distance from the center to the edge of the circle. If I draw that radius anywhere on the circle, it's going to be the same length. Now, the diameter is equal to the distance across the circle that goes through the middle. It's also the same as 2 radii. So if I draw like this diameter that you see right here, if we go from the center out, that's 1 radius. From the center out this way, it's another radius. So 1 diameter equals 2 radius. And then, of course, a letter that you all hopefully will get used to for this lesson is going to be pi. It's that little symbol there. It's about 3.14. We'll probably use the pi button on our calculator more than anything. So Desmos has a pi button. Not entirely sure. We'll check that in class. So there are 2 equations for circumference. We have 2 times pi times the radius, or we have pi times diameter. The reason we have 2 is, again, the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. So these are the same. So 2 times that radius there is the same thing as a diameter. It just depends on what we have to work with, whichever is easiest to use. So what is pi? Well, you all probably heard of it before, recognize the symbol, but pi is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. So if I divide a circumference by a diameter, I get pi. Yeah, and it's an irrational number, so we can't really use it as a fraction. There is an approximation here, but we won't use that much. Yes, like I said before, the radius of a circle is the distance from the center of the circle to any point on the edge of the circle. And the diameter is the distance from one side of the circle to the other, passing through the center. And again, the diameter is twice the length of the radius. So here, we're trying to find the circumference of this circle. We have a line that goes all the way through, so it's a diameter. It's the big one. So I am going to choose to use the formula C equals pi times diameter because I have the diameter. Might as well use it. Okay, so in place of that diameter, put the 12, so I have 12 pi, which for our class, most of the time, this will be our final answer for circumference. But if we were to work it all the way through, you can't see it down there because technology, but that's 37.7 inches. So here we have the radius of 5.3 centimeters. We know it's radius because it goes from the center to the outside. It's the small one. So to use a formula, we have to use 2 times pi times the radius. Again, we substitute in 5.3 for the radius, and it gives us 2 times pi times 5.3. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to multiply 2 into 5.3, get 10.6 pi. Now for our purposes, we just leave this alone, because most of the time we're not going to multiply by pi. But if we did, we'd end up with 33.3. I need to fix that, but oh. Now we're not going to worry about this just yet, so instead, let's practice an example that I make. So here is a circle. All right. So there's a circle. It has a diameter. We know it's a diameter because it goes all the way through. So what we need to do is, let's just say that this is, 13 meters across. Okay. So for circumference, so we have a diameter, we're going to say that circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. What's our diameter? It's 13. So I'll say that this is 13 pi. And I'm done. Now, I could multiply 13 by pi, but for this class, we're probably going to leave it in terms of pi most of the time. I will tell you when to multiply it. So basically read the directions. Actually, I'm just going to copy all this so I don't have to redraw my circles. All right, so let's say for just a second that I didn't have a diameter, but instead I had a radius. And how do I know that's a radius? Well, it goes from the center to the edge, doesn't go all the way through. It's the smaller one. Let's say it has a radius of 7. So for circumference, if we're using a radius, we have 2 pi r. And again, the reason we have that 2 in there is because we want the distance all the way across, and that only goes halfway. So I'd have to have another one across here. I want to figure out, I want to have the entire length here, which would be another 7. And how do I double 7? Well, I multiply it by 2. So it's going to be 2 times pi times 7. And 2 times 7 is 14. So we got 14 pi. That's pretty much it for circumference for our purposes. We might expand upon it a little bit later, but for now, that's all. If you have any questions, just let me know.